Hi guys, this is Lucas Miller, and today I am going to discuss two film versions of Leo Tolstoy's classic novel, Anna Karenina. Like Jane Eyre, there are too many Anna Karenina films, and if you are the sort of person who likes to see every little detail of a book, you might as well skip these films and stick with a miniseries. I have read the book, and even though it is 860 pages, 2 or 2.5 hours is plenty of time to tell the tale, because a lot of it deals with Levin, the philosopher farmer, discussing the woes of Russian politics and the various merits and demerits of farming techniques, and it gets dull very fast. You could easily cut out 1/3 of a book and not do it any harm. That being said, I thought 1997 and 2012 did an outstanding job hitting the highlights of the story and adding quotes that are reflective of Leo Tolstoy's outlook on life, mostly represented through the character of Levin, the philosopher farmer. So which version is best? That's hard to say because both films have a very different approach. 2012 is mostly done on a soundstage. Yes, there are some real outside scenes, but a lot of it is done on a soundstage. And the stages are packed with details, packed with camera angles and symbols and so forth. It's like looking at a book of pop-up illustrations or a book of Kanuko craft illustrations. 2012 also has a very ethereal fairy tale feel to it. Some of the costumes look like a Disney film. They are not meant to be accurate to the 1870s of Russia. Once I understood this, I was able to sit back and enjoy it for what it was. Some people warm up to this approach and others don't. It all depends on what you prefer. Joe Wright chose a more fairy tale-ish feel to the film than he did for his Pride and Prejudice 2005. Probably because most Anna Karenina films have chosen a gritty, realistic depiction of a novel, and he wanted to bring something new to the table. 1997 follows the standard period drama procedure that was characteristic of period dramas during the 1980s and 90s, like The Age of Innocence or Little Women or Howard's End. Just great locations, historically accurate costumes, great actors, and a great script. If you like those three films I mentioned, you'll probably like the 1997 version of Anna Karenina as well. Bernard Rose has a more simplifying and unfussy way of directing than Joe Wright does. With Joe Wright, he puts his fingerprints all over the film. He was telling the audience, this is my Anna Karenina. Whereas Bernard Rose lets the story just speak for itself. 2012 has more details from a book because it's a little longer. You see more scenes with Vronsky and his friends and family, and Vronsky and Anna's child lives, whereas in 1997 she has a miscarriage. But 1997 packs the bigger emotional punch because it gives us more time to grieve for Anna. In 2012, after Anna dies, we see a scene of her widowed husband, Karenin, looking at a book in the fields while his two little children are playing, like Mary and Laura in the opening credits of Little House on the Prairie. I know they were trying to juxtapose Karenin's happy ending with Anna's sad ending, but the music is a bit perky and heartwarming, and it jars you out of the seriousness of the scene where she offs herself. So you think, what are those two little kids dancing around the fields for? Don't they know what just happened? Whereas in 1997, you see a scene of Levin, the farmer, and his wife Kitty and kids having a happy ending at their farm after Anna's death, but the music is more somber and serious. It never lets you forget what's just happened. Even though there's a juxtaposition of Levin the farmer's happy ending and Anna's sad ending, the juxtaposition feels a little smoother. It also ends with a soliloquy of Levin's outlook on life, how his newfound faith has given him a positive meaning of goodness with which he has the power to invest. And those lines he speaks at the end are also at the end of a book too. So that was a very special way to end it as well. That was a very somber, meaningful way to end it. So what about the performances? Domhnall Gleeson versus Alfred Molina as Levin the philosopher farmer. I'd say they both do a great job, although Alfred Molina has a bigger role. In 1997, he's just as much a main character as Anna, whereas in 2012, Levin is more of a supporting part. Domhnall Gleeson does what he can to make the character bold and assertive, but Alfred Molina is a little more memorable because he's got more to do in the 1997 film. And he also has some really great voiceovers where he talks about a spiritual journey. I really love the way the 1997 film opens up with him running from wolves and then falling into a well. And then you realize it's a nightmare. And he says one of his greatest fears is having lived without knowing what it meant to be loved, a fear worse than death itself, and that he learned Anna Karenina shared the same fear. So he and her were not that different in that regard. Also in 1997, you see how Levin has the gift of using his heart. He has a Christ-like kindness and empathy and reaches out to whoever seems troubled or depressed. He reaches out to his alcoholic brother who lives in the slums, and then he reaches out to Vronsky at the end after Anna has died. In the 2012 version, Levin is a warm and endearing presence, but I felt the warmth and endearing presence even more in 1997 because of how it showed Levin learning how to use his heart. What about Kitty? Mia Kirshner versus Alicia Vikander, they're about the same. Kitty is not a particularly difficult role to play. She just has to be sweet, innocent, and childlike, and both actresses play this very well. How about Karenin, Anna's cuckolded husband? James Fox versus Jude Law, I'd say they're about the same, although the interpretation is different because in 1997, James Fox plays Karenin as a cold, stuck-up Pharisee like Mr. Brocklehurst in Jane Eyre, whereas in 2012, Jude Law plays Karenin as more sympathetical. By the way, the 1997 version is a little closer to the book. Karenin is not the most pleasant character to be around. He's got a very holier-than-thou attitude, and you see a lot more of this in the 1997 version. But as far as acting goes, both actors, James Fox and Jude Law, do a great job with the material that they are given. Vronsky, the lover, the Prince Charming character. Sean Bean versus Aaron Taylor Johnson. Aaron Taylor Johnson is okay. He has some good moments here and there. He has the right demeanor and personality to play a naughty lover, but Sean Bean has it all over him when it comes to a strong masculine presence and charisma and dramatic power. Whereas Aaron Taylor Johnson comes across as a silly, immature, love-struck teenage schoolboy much of the time. When Sean Bean looks at Anna Karenina, you can tell he's deeply in love with her and wants to spend the rest of his life with her. Even in the beginning, when he declares himself to her at the train station, you get the feeling that he would give his life for her if necessary. He plays the part of Vronsky with an intense Mr. Rochester-like inner brooding and passion. And you also see some more of Vronsky's positive traits in the 1997 version, even though he's still the bad guy. You see him carrying Anna down the stairs when she's sick. You see him comforting her the best he can. You see him standing by her side, even when she's wearing his patience thin with her trust issues. And best of all, you see him grieve for her when she kills herself. You see a scene of him running to the train station, finding her laid out in the woodshed, and then him talking to one of his friends in the train at the very end about it and how he wishes he could block that image out of his mind and just remember her as she was when he first beheld her at the ball so long ago. The way Sean Bean plays that last scene is so powerful. It really brings a tear to your eyes. So, between the two actors, it's Sean Bean all the way. He rocked it hard. He was one of my favorite things about the 1997 version of Anna Karenina. Anna Karenina, Sophie Marceau versus Keira Knightley. That's a very tough call to make. Both actresses do a great job, although their interpretations are very different. I think Keira Knightley is the more friendly and likable performance. She makes her character more friendly, more warm and vivacious and hot-blooded and strong-willed and passionate.